What's up, you guys? Welcome to today's video. As you can tell by the title, I am going to kind of give you 10 stories in one. This video is going to be about 10 times that my addiction won. If you guys are new here, hi, my name is Jess. I'm a person in long-term recovery who has in fact been to prison. It's not a flex, I'm just used to saying it. If you guys want to follow me on any other social media platform, TikTok, Instagram, Patreon, that's $2. It's only ever going to be $2. All of that is linked down below, as well as my vlog channel and my podcast. You might want to subscribe to that Patreon because YouTube has been flagging some of my videos, so I'm going to be uploading probably a lot of videos about dark history. I'm doing like the dark history of prison series. That's probably gonna have to go on Patreon because it's hella gory, so I'm just saying. All right, without further ado, let's kick this thing off. So these are in no particular order, but I was thinking back to all of the times that my addiction won. And what I mean by that is like the times that I disappointed people, the times that I hurt people, the times that, you know, my addiction came before others, people that I cared about, and got me in really bad situations. So this is gonna be just like 10 stories about those kinds of things. Starting at no particular order, number one, I lived in upstate New York, and I would go down to the city to pick up large amounts of hugs. You know, censorship is gross. And during one of those situations, what I would do a lot of the time was I would take a bus into Port Authority, Manhattan, and then I would either take a train to somewhere or whatever. In this situation, I was going through Penn Station. It makes me sad thinking about it, but I saw a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in a really long time walk almost right in front of me. If you know anything about Penn Station, it's really hectic and it's super busy. Well, he didn't see me. He walked right in front of me, and I was like I went to go like yell his name, but I knew that if I didn't get on this train, I was not going to make my deal in time, and it was a big deal, and I needed to be there, and I was barely gonna make it. Like, I was late. So I was like, and I stopped myself because I realized, like, you can't talk to him right now. You have to get on this train. You're gonna miss this deal, and it's, you know, thousands of dollars that they're not gonna sit around and wait for you kind of situation. And I realized that, and I watched him walk away, and it was just so heartbreaking for me because I wanted to talk to him, and I hadn't seen him in years, have not seen him since. But one of my friends was like, yo, Jess, let's go. And I'm watching him walk away, and I'm like, ugh, and I left to get on the train. And that sucks, you know? Like, it sucks that I still have not seen that person to this day. And they were a really good friend of mine, you know. Addiction is a monster. Number two, a really good childhood friend of mine was hurt and had to go to the hospital. She didn't want to take an ambulance because it would have caused like a whole big scene, but she was really hurt and she really had to go to the hospital. She had to get like a bunch of stitches, and seeing all of that happen, I'm like, oh, I'll get a cab. So I get her a cab, take her to the hospital. I make sure she's okay. Like, I check on her a little bit. She gets back to the room. The doctors say, okay, yeah, this is what we have to do. It's gonna take however long, because I was impatient. I'm like, how long is it gonna take? Sit your ass down, your friend is hurt. Right? But I was like, how long is it gonna take? And they're kind of telling, you know, us how long these stitches are gonna take. And she's afraid. I don't think she had ever had stitches before. And I've had stitches like 13 times. So I'm like, oh, it's no big deal. You know, just, they numb you up real good, and it's like sewing a blanket. So you're good, right? And she's like, yeah, I'm good. I'm like, hey, peace. I left her there. I left her there in the hospital, completely afraid, my childhood friend needing like a bunch of stitches because she had hurt her leg. And I'm just like, see ya, you're good, right? I left thinking like, oh, I took her to the hospital, she's straight, like it's totally fine, no big deal. And that like really hurt her feelings. And she was there alone for hours because I had to go get high. I rationalized a lot, you know, like, oh, I got her a cab. Oh, I took her to the hospital. Yeah, but then you freaking left her here and she was scared and she asked you to stay. Like, it was just so shitty for me to do, you know? And it breaks my heart to even look back at all of these things and think, wow, you thought you were a good friend? Really? Are you sure? But I did. I genuinely did. I thought I was a good friend. Number three, I stormed out of Thanksgiving dinner and probably more holidays and special occasions than I can even count. But on this instance, I was mad because I got called out for being high. And I'm like, I'm not high. Like, so I became really aggressive and really shitty on Thanksgiving, and I left my family there so upset because you're not gonna tell me anything. You're not gonna tell me how to live my life. You're not gonna tell me that I'm high. I'm nodding out, dude. I'm nodding out. And I'm like, I'm not high. I'm tired. Like, I work so hard. I was unemployed. I was a fucking drug dealer. It doesn't matter. Not the point. I was so aggressive and so crappy, and I stormed out before dinner was even served. And my mom, she cooks her ass off for Thanksgiving dinner. I mean, she makes all of this stuff, dude. I mean, she's cooking for days. She makes like pumpkin rolls and breads and like all this stuff. And I stormed out. I stormed out because you're not gonna tell me. And that's the thing. I had like a hairline trigger temper. I was a very angry person. And when someone tried to tell me about me, ooh, we're gonna have a problem. And now looking back, I realized that my friends and family were like walking around on eggshells. They never knew what was going to upset me or what my mood was gonna be in. And the whole time I'm like, I'm just not sick. Like, I'm not getting high anymore. I'm just not sick, because it takes a lot to maintain the addiction at that, where I was at then. And I thought like, oh, I showed up, you're welcome. Okay. And for whatever reason, I thought that that was just who I was. You know, like I didn't think it was even possible to be in recovery. I didn't even have that word. I didn't even have that word in my vocabulary. I didn't understand how people could, you know, be in long-term recovery. I just thought, I'm gonna die young. I'm a heroin addict. It's what I am. It's who I am, whatever. And along the way, I hurt a lot of people. And I'll never forget the look on my mom's face when I was getting all my stuff to storm out. Like, come on, dude. Number 4. This is a hard one. So when I was like 18 or so, I lived on Main Street of my hometown in upstate New York. My dad works close to where I lived, and there's also like a bar really close to that area. So from where my dad works, he could see this bar that I would go to all the time, and I'd be running all around this town. On a couple of occasions, my dad was leaving work, and there's this like alley that, you know, he walks through or whatever, and I just happened to be walking down the same alley. So he's walking this way down this alley, I'm walking the other way. We passed each other, and I didn't say a word to him. Not one. And that was not the only time that had happened. Like after I left home at 18, it happened several other times in different parking lots. There was one time where he was walking to his car that was in a parking lot. I saw him, he saw me, I kept walking, he got in the car, we didn't say anything to each other. I didn't even try to talk to him. Then he parked his car in a different parking lot, and I think like a week or so later, same thing happened. I was walking through the parking lot, he was going to the car, I didn't say a word to him. And if you think like, well, why didn't he try to talk to you? It's because I probably looked aggressive or high or crappy. He probably didn't know what to say. I didn't leave home on good terms. I left home on really bad terms. I hadn't gone to see them. I hadn't called. I hadn't checked in. Like, I wasn't even trying to have a relationship with them for years. So I remember passing my dad several times in our hometown and not talking to him, and I felt horrible. There was also a time where I was walking all around. I was high. I was up all night long doing uppers and drinking and chain smoking, you know, Newports. I don't smoke anymore. I don't know how my lungs survived it. But anyway, I was up all night long. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning, and my dad's coworker is either walking to work or, you know, taking a morning walk. Radio station people, so they're up really early, and I see him from like a ways away. Like, it's a long like sidewalk that kind of goes down a hill and down into Main Street, and I see him from a distance, and I know that he sees me because I'm completely exposed here, that I can't if I turned around and walked in the other direction, it would have been so obvious that like I was avoiding him. So I'm like, just make it awkward and keep walking towards him. Okay, what? I would have thrown myself in front of a moving car to not walk past him in that moment, because I knew that I was really, really high, and I knew that I looked like shit, and I knew that I had been up all night. So I dead ass would have thrown myself into traffic just to avoid that interaction. But there was no traffic because I'm from nowhere, New York, and it's 5 o'clock in the morning. It's just us. It's just us. And I went to walk past him, and he goes, hey Jess, how you doing? And I'm like, good, like dart away like the Flash, you know. Also, I'm awkward anyway, but I remember thinking like, wow, you're such an asshole. You can't stand there for 5 seconds and talk to the person that you've known your entire life. Like, my dad has worked at a radio station in our town my entire life. These people are not just my dad's coworkers. Like, they're like family. Like I've known them all my life, and I can't stand there for 5 freaking seconds and talk to him. If you're watching this, I'm sorry, but we've talked about it since, and I love you, and I'm glad you're doing good. Number 5. This takes place in Arkansas. Now I told you this is in no particular order, but I was in Arkansas, heavily addicted to methamphetamine, and I hated it. I was really skinny, I was really sick, I did not want to be there anymore, and I called a friend of mine. Hello, Anna Lopez. I called a friend of mine and I'm like, girl, get me a bus ticket. And she's like, okay, where are you? And I'm like, I'm in Fort Smith, Arkansas. And I think at that point they were like, I don't even know where they were, like Magazine Crew. Maybe she wanted me to come home to Binghamton. She's from Binghamton. I don't remember where the bus tickets were for, but I remember I called her and in an instant, she bought me a bus ticket. 1 second later, and I didn't get on the bus. And I didn't call her, I didn't return her calls. A month and a half later, I call her having a complete mental breakdown and I'm like, yo, get me a bus ticket. And again, in a second, she gets me a bus ticket. Guess who doesn't get on that bus? Me. Again, no call, no apology, no, hey, let me pay you back for that, nothing. I just ghost her. October 19th, 2011. I'm like, yo, I need another bus ticket. I swear to God, I'm getting on the bus that time. Like I am packing up all my stuff right now. I'm gonna stay in the hotel right next to the bus station. I will be there. I will be there. I'm getting on the bus. I had every intention of getting on that bus, but I was arrested October 20th, 2011 at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't make my bus at 9. Trust and believe at 9 a.m. when I'm in the freaking drunk tank in the jail, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I was on a Greyhound bus right now. Said nobody ever. But if given the option of jail or Greyhound bus, you pick bus. Also, my dear friend, if I still owe you like 120 bucks, I'm gonna cash app you, let me know. Another time in Fort Smith, Arkansas, such a fun time. I had somebody, a friend of mine, drive from Texas to come get me because I didn't want to be on a bus. Okay, also I wasn't sleeping and not making good decisions. Anyway, I'm like, I called this person and I said, I'm miserable, I hate it here, I need to get out of here, which I guess happened pretty often now that I'm like thinking about it. Blech. Anyway, they're like, okay, Arkansas's not that far. I'll just drive and I will come get you. And that way, you know, you can crash here for a little bit. Like you can, you know, sober up or do whatever you have to do. This person drove all night long to come get me in Arkansas. So they drove from Austin, Texas to Fort Smith, Arkansas. That is 7 hours and 13 minutes. They drove 7 hours. And when they showed up, I was there and I'm like, hey, how's it going? Da, da, da. And they're like, are you gonna get in the car? And I'm like, yeah, just 1 second. I just have to go over here to get this stuff over here. And I completely ditched them. And what's worse is I left them at someone else's house. I left them at like a friend of my house. I was selling drugs to those people. So I'm like, oh, it's fine. I'm their drug dealer. So I leave my friend that just drove 7 hours in someone's house that I sell drugs to. And literally everyone's like, what the hell? Like, it's awkward. After the first like 5 or 10 minutes, maybe I'm still getting my stuff. When 4 hours go by and everyone's blowing up your phone like, hey, your friend is here. They want to know if like you're gonna come back. Like, what's going on? Totally blew that person off. Did not go back with them to Texas. It didn't. Also didn't go back to that house for like 2 weeks until I was like absolutely sure that they were not there anymore. What? I know. Horrible. I was horrible. Number 7, we're back in New York. Told you this is all over the place. I was probably like 19 or so at the time. I made my friend Katie, and she thinks I'm ridiculous for bringing this up, I bet, because we've talked about it, and she's like, dude, who cares? I made my friend Katie drive at night, it matters, to come pick me up and drive me somewhere to get high. Did she know I was going to get high? No, because I wouldn't tell her. Do you know why I wouldn't tell her? Because we were like really good friends, like all through middle school, a little bit in high school, and then I took a hard left into addiction and I just stopped talking to her. I just stopped talking to her. I stopped playing sports. I stopped going places. Like, I wouldn't hang out with her at all. Then years later, we're both graduated. I didn't graduate. We're both out of high school. And I'm like, hey, can you come pick me up? Like, I think I asked her on Facebook Messenger, like, I'm such an asshole. Hey, can you come pick me up? I really need a ride. And she did, because she's a great friend. And how awkward is that? But she came to pick me up, dropped me off, and I stayed at this place and got high for like days. And then like when I sobered up a little bit, I'm like, dude, I cannot believe I asked Katie to just come pick me up, looking the way that I looked, in the shape that I was in. Like, I haven't even talked to her since like, I don't know, like the 9th grade. We're really good friends now though, and I'm really proud of her, and she's a foster mom and she's killing it, and I adore her. But ew. Number 8. I was released from a jail one time at like midnight. I don't know if they still do that or not. Maybe. But when I was changing out and putting my street clothes back on, I had saved a little packet of H in my jeans. So, you know, behind the zipper, there's like that little square piece of jeans. I used to cut slits in them and I used to put little wax bags in that little area of my jeans. Well, it got through. It was kind of like my way to like always have it on me, and if I get arrested, we're good. But 6 months later, I'm getting released from this jail and it's still in there. And now at this point, it is like, it looks like tar basically. Like it's not powder anymore. It is like gummy, mushy, like it's not in good condition. Well, I got released at midnight. Someone came to pick me up, and in the jail, I'm still in the jail. There's a hallway and a bathroom on the property of this jail, like a waiting room or whatever. I go in the bathroom, still on the jail property, to take that out of my jeans and get high. I just went to jail. I just got out of jail because I'm a drug addict and like, oh my God. And the person waiting for me does not want me to use, right? Because hello, I get high and then I ditch the person that came to pick me up. I was great. I was awesome. Best person ever. But I think if you've gone through addiction, like I think you guys can relate to all of these things, but who does it? Who gets high on the jail property 5 seconds after you get released from jail? Who does that, man? Me and drug addicts. It's just a very clear indicator that nothing else matters besides our addiction. Absolutely nothing. Not a single fucking thing. That matters first. Everything else is a very distant second. Who cares that I'm still on the property of the literal jail? It's cool. No. Immediately no. So this one like really makes me sad. I was partying with some friends, and one of my friends who has recently passed away from an overdose. So they struggled for a really long time. I was partying with a bunch of people. He was drinking and I know that he was on benzos, but he seemed okay. Anyway, for whatever reason, at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I had to go either re-up or sell some stuff, or I was doing something. And I'm like, hey, y'all ain't gotta go home, but you got to get the hell out of here. And everyone was walking home except for him. And he's like, Jess, can I just stay here? Like, I'm fucking drunk, dude. Like, I cannot even drive, I'm drunk. I'm like, hell no, dude, suck it up. You're fine. What? And like, he was telling me like he was not okay to drive. But I'm like, dude, you have to get the fuck out of my house. And I think the reason why I was so like aggressive in that scenario is because I didn't want people staying at my house because I had stuff there and I didn't want to get robbed. I wanted to lock up. That was the priority. Locking up my house, not keeping this person safe, which in the drug world, dude, it's really hard to know if he's really drunk and can't drive, or if he just wants to stay here to rob me. Like the second I leave, my TV might be gone. Money that I have in the house might be gone. Drugs might be gone. Like he might steal everything that I have. And that's just the reality of being in that world. So it was always protect me first, protect my addiction first, protect me first, everything else, whatever. I made him leave. I went and did whatever I had to do. And the next day he called me or texted me. Were we texting back then? I think we were texting like T9 on a flip phone. If you know, you know. And he said, I put my car in a ditch last night. It's freaking totaled. I'm like, oh my God, are you okay? I remember feeling bad in that moment, but looking back at it in the same scenario, I probably would have made the same decision because I was in the drug world and everyone was trying to rob me. But now, dude, if you are drunk, I will call you an Uber. You can crash at my house. Like, I am crazy about it. I will steal your keys in a fucking instant so that you do not drive. I don't even care if I might not even know you. And if I see you stumbling out of somewhere and you have keys in your hand, I'm fucking stealing your keys. I'm calling you an Uber and I'll mail you your keys back to you. Like, I am crazy about it. It is that serious. Is this number 9 or 10? I don't remember. 9 or 10. A friend of mine had gotten out of rehab and they were doing really, really well. And they asked me to stay with them so that they did not get high. Did I stay with them? No. And I remember like they were at the bar, which doesn't sound like a great place to be if you just got out of rehab, but this person was an IV user and they did really great. They had like 6 months sober and I was so excited to see them. And they were like, Jess, please just stay with me. Just stay with me, please. Like come back to my place and just sit with me because I'm really not doing good. Like I really want to get high. It's bothering me. I'm like, dude, you got this. You just did 6 months. I could never do 6 months. You got it. Don't even worry about it. And I left and I didn't stay with them. And What sucks about that situation is I never got a chance to apologize to them. But I think they went on to use for another like 5 or 10 years or so. But I never had the chance, or haven't had the chance yet, to apologize to them. Last but not least, number 10 or 11, or I don't know, because I was such an angry person and I held grudges for a really long time, I did not physically like see my parents. I mean, I saw my dad in passing, right? But I didn't go to my parents' house. I didn't see my parents, like my dad and my stepmom, for at least 5 years. And my siblings grew up not really knowing who I am. My twin brothers were born and I was nowhere around. My baby sister, I think she was like, I want to say 4 or 5 when I left. So now, you know, she's 10 or 11 when I come back. She doesn't really remember me. She is now 18. I'm so proud of her. I showed up one day with Micah, Micah being like 3 years old, and what actually got me home the first time is my dad had a massive stroke a few years ago, like 7 years ago? I don't know. He had a stroke and I went back to visit, and I went back to, you know, just make sure everyone was okay. And that was like the first moment where I was like, okay, I need to come back to New York every single year. I need to call and I need to do better, you know? And I knew that I wasn't in a good place to do that before, and I was angry and bitter. Working on your recovery journey is not easy. It takes a lot of self-reflection and honesty and tears and therapy and workbooks, making amends. You know, it takes a lot of healing, and people still to this day don't trust me, and that is completely fair because I never gave them a reason to. When I go home and I stay with my parents when I'm visiting, it's so funny. My dad will ask me, like, I'm 32 years old. He'll be like, when are you coming back? Who's gonna be there? You know, like he'll ask me like, where are you going? When are you coming back? Who's gonna be there? And I don't let it bother me. I think it's kind of cute. I know that there were probably times where I was like, I'll be right back, and I didn't see them forever, you know? So the thing is, like, you have to give people some leeway with that and time. You have to rebuild that trust. Trust can be lost in an instant, you know? So I'm very glad that I'm not that person anymore. I'm very glad that I've been able to make amends to most of the people on this list. I'm glad that I have a good relationship with my family now, but it took time. So my message to you, if your parents, family, friends, if they are like they're not trusting you, or they're saying things like, you sure you're not high? I know it's frustrating. Try not to let it bother you, because time. It takes time and personal growth. And there are always going to be some people that just don't freaking believe you and don't trust you ever again. And that is kind of a component to how we were in active addiction. If you are struggling with opioid addiction, I'm a partner with Groups Recovered Together. You guys hear me talk about them all the time. They're both online and in-person treatment program. We're opening in tons of different states, so check the landing page in the description box of every single video to see if it is available in your state. All right, you guys, I'm gonna end today's video here. As always, I love you. Stay safe. Stay in recovery, whatever that looks like to you, because there is no wrong way to recover. And don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. Bye, you guys.